Welcome back, friends. Today we're diving into the anxious generation. Jonathan Haidt's very gentle way of saying, hey, maybe giving preteens full access to the entire internet was not the strongest decision society ever made. This is the 15-minute version, which means we're trimming the excess but keeping all the flavor. Think of this as the audiobook equivalent of a good therapist. Comforting, slightly confronting, mildly funny, and occasionally holding up a mirror you weren't sure you wanted to see. If you appreciate videos that help you understand why everyone seems a little more overwhelmed these days, tap like so the algorithm knows to keep sending you existential clarity instead of cat compilation videos. And subscribe so you don't miss next week's dose of book-based wisdom. Today's structure is simple and clean. 4 big movements. No fluff, no detours, just the heart of Haidt's argument, delivered in a conversational human voice. What broke? How it broke? Why this generation cracked instead of bending? What we can actually do, the part that gives you hope. Let's jump in. Part 1. What broke? Something happened to teenagers around the early 2010s, and it wasn't small. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't the kind of shift you only notice with a microscope and a statistics degree. It was a hockey stick curve. A sudden bend upward in anxiety, depression, self-harm, panic disorders, loneliness, and general emotional instability among young people, especially girls, but boys weren't exactly thriving either. If you look at the graphs from countries across the world, Canada, the US, the UK, Australia, the Nordics, they all show the same thing. Around 2010 to 2015, something in adolescent mental health went sideways. And here's what makes that curve so fascinating. Nothing else lines up as the cause. The economy was recovering, violence was down, teen pregnancy was down, drug use was down. Kids were, in many ways, making safer decisions, yet somehow they were suffering more. Think of it like seeing a pothole appear in the middle of a perfectly smooth road. You don't blame the weather, or the tires, or the driver. You look for something that suddenly changed beneath the surface. And something did. Childhood moved indoors. Then, childhood moved online. And then almost overnight, childhood moved into smartphones. The result was not simply kids spend more time on screens. It was a full redesign of the adolescent environment. A redesign that the human nervous system was not prepared for. Part 2. How it broke. Let's walk through this part slowly, because this is the engine of the entire book. Once you understand how childhood changed, every other chapter makes sense. First shift, the slow decline of real play. Before smartphones, childhood was basically a combination of going outside, doing mildly risky things, arguing with your friends, figuring out how to survive boredom, coming home covered in grass stains for reasons you couldn't fully explain. This wasn't nostalgia, it was neurological training. Kids learned negotiation by arguing about the rules of a game. They learned courage by climbing something slightly too tall. They learned confidence by solving problems without adults. They learned emotional regulation by tolerating boredom. Then the 1990s and early 2000s happened. Parents got more anxious, news got scarier, schools got stricter, communities got less connected, and slowly, without any big announcement, childhood got domesticated. Playdates replaced free play. Supervision replaced independence. Safety replaced exploration. A bubble replaced the neighborhood. Kids weren't running around anymore, they were being managed. Then came the second shift. The sudden arrival of the smartphone. Between 2010 and 2015, phones went from helpful tools to life companions. You no longer checked your phone, you lived inside it. Now imagine being 11 years old and suddenly having a device in your pocket that gives you access to every human on Earth, lets every human on Earth access you, tracks your social value through likes and views, shows you the most beautiful people alive all day, lets you replay rejection in high definition, steals your attention every 30 seconds, controls your sleep, controls your self-esteem, controls your friend group dynamics. Kids did not stand a chance. The real world is slow. The digital world is engineered. The real world is uncertain. The digital world feels controllable. The real world is awkward. The digital world feels safer until it absolutely isn't. Third shift, social media became the main social environment. This is the most important and most misunderstood change. Social media didn't just give kids a place to post. It replaced the developmental ecosystem where identity used to form. Instead of learning who they are through real-life interactions, teenagers began forming their sense of self through metrics, comparisons, filters, performative friendships, invisible audiences, algorithms that reward extremity and spectacle. Childhood didn't just move online. Identity formation did. And the human mind reacts very differently to online identity than real identity. Online, every interaction feels like a referendum on your worth. Teenagers used to worry, do people like me? Now they worry, do people like my content? Do people like my face? Am I visible? Am I relevant? Am I falling behind? You can tell a 15-year-old that their worth isn't measured by likes. Their brain will not believe you because their world tells them otherwise. Fourth shift, boredom disappeared. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the birthplace of creativity, ideas, self-reflection, emotional processing, imagination, and resilience. But smartphones killed boredom, and with it killed the space where a child's inner life develops. Fifth shift, sleep collapsed. Phones in bedrooms destroyed adolescent sleep patterns. No sleep, no emotional regulation. No emotional regulation with anxiety. Anxiety put an entire generation struggling to stay afloat. Phones didn't just take over childhood. They rewired the emotional architecture of adolescence. Part 3. Why this generation cracked instead of bending. Now we get to the big question everyone argues about at dinner parties. Are kids today really more anxious, or is everyone just talking about their feelings more? No, they are actually more anxious. And the reason is simple. They were the first generation to grow up without the developmental scaffolding that humans have relied on for millennia. This isn't metaphorical. Their environment changed faster than their biology could adapt. Let's break this into two parallel stories, girls and boys. Not stereotypes, developmental realities. Why girls suffered more, earlier. Social media amplifies appearance, social status, feedback, and relational dynamics. This hits adolescent girls right where their developmental sensitivity is highest. Girls tend to value connection, belonging, and social harmony. Social media turns those strengths into vulnerabilities. Instead of comparing themselves to a few peers, they are comparing themselves to thousands of digitally perfected faces. Instead of occasional social stress, they face constant social evaluation. Instead of a small audience of friends, they have a massive, invisible audience judging everything they do. This isn't like girls are dramatic. It's algorithms know exactly how to target female insecurity. The result? Self-harm goes up. Anxiety spikes. Depression rises. Friendship drama intensifies. Perfectionism becomes the default. Girls weren't ready for the psychological pressure cooker we handed them. Adults aren't even ready for it. Why boys collapsed quietly. Boys didn't implode under social comparison. They drifted away from real life. Video games, streaming, porn, Discord, endless content loops. These aren't inherently bad, but they become damaging when they replace real social development. Instead of friendships, boys have online group chats. Instead of risk-taking, boys have digital achievements. Instead of flirting in person, boys retreat into fantasy intimacy. Instead of facing challenges, boys choose infinite comfort. The tragedy is not that boys are lazy. It's that digital life gave them everything except meaning. Girls drowned in visibility. Boys starved in isolation, and both patterns lead to anxiety. The real reason Gen Z cracked. They were the first generation to do adolescence in a world with no privacy, no boredom, no real risk, no spontaneous play, no nighttime boundaries, no downtime, no escape from comparison, no sheltered emotional development, no gradual identity formation. Humans do not thrive in these conditions, especially not young humans, and now we're watching the fallout in real time. Part 4. What we can actually do. This is the part where the book turns from the world is on fire to, okay, everyone take a breath, we can fix this. And here's the hopeful thing. We do not need to ban phones. We do not need to reject technology. We do not need to move to the woods and raise children barefoot. We just need to rebuild the developmental environment that children require. the environment humanity used for thousands of years before we accidentally replaced it with apps. Here are Haidt's core solutions, rewritten in the summary central voice. Solution 1. Rebuild real play. Kids need unsupervised, unstructured, backyard or park-based chaos. Not because it's quaint, but because it's how their brains learn courage, conflict resolution, risk calibration, self-regulation, leadership, creativity. If they do not get these skills in childhood, they struggle in adulthood. Adults have to cooperate to make this happen. One parent sending their kid outside is risky. 10 parents doing it is neighborhood culture. Solution 2. Give independence back gradually. Kids can handle more than we think. The world is safer than people assume, and independence is like a muscle, it atrophies without use. Let kids walk to school with a friend. Let them bike to the park. Let them help with household responsibilities. Let them fail sometimes. Let them problem solve without adults mediating every emotion. Kids grow when adults step back. Solution 3. Fix school phone norms. Phones do not belong in classrooms. Full stop. Schools that ban phones during school hours see better grades, better behavior, better friendships, better attention, better mental health. Kids talk to each other again. Lunch becomes social again. Recess becomes real again. It's the simplest mental health intervention imaginable. Solution 4. Delay smartphones and social media. Not forever, just long enough. A 12-year-old is not equipped for the digital gladiator ring. A 14-year-old is barely equipped. A 16-year-old is the bare minimum for social media. The later you introduce smartphones, the healthier the adolescent turns out. This isn't opinion. This is emerging research, parent observation, and child development logic all pointed in the same direction. Solution 5. Bedrooms are phone-free zones. This fixes sleep, school performance, mood, resilience, friendship drama, late-night anxiety spirals. Kids don't need to be reachable at 1 a.m. They need to be unconscious, resting their emotional immune systems. Solution 6. Regulate the digital world kids live in. Children shouldn't be exposed to environments designed to maximize engagement at the expense of well-being. Age limits need to mean something. Algorithms need boundaries. Privacy needs defaults. Platforms need accountability. This isn't anti-technology, it's pro-human solution. 7. Rebuild community. Kids need tribes. Kids need peers. Kids need role models. Kids need adults other than their parents involved in their lives. Kids need spaces where they feel known. If you want to fix childhood, fix loneliness first. Technology didn't destroy childhood, disconnection did. Conclusion, and that brings us to the end of the 15-minute dive into the anxious generation. If there's one message Haidt wants you to walk away with, it's this. Kids aren't fragile, they're just growing in the wrong conditions. Fix the conditions and kids rebound faster than you can imagine. And honestly, that's comforting. It means we don't need a time machine. We don't need to shame parents. We don't need to fear technology. We just need to remember how humans grow and give those ingredients back. If this video made you rethink your own childhood or made you understand today's kids a little more clearly, tap like. It helps more than you think. And subscribe for the 5-minute version coming next, plus new book breakdowns every week. Drop a comment telling us the one thing from your childhood you wish kids today could experience. It helps the algorithm, yes, but it also builds exactly the community this generation needs more of. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.